And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with us for the next hour. We're going to have a ton of fun. We got a great show in store. Bart Benton of Benton & Benton Law here in Monroe is going to be joining us shortly, giving us some legal advice, some conversation about things that you can do if you are in a certain situation. We'll save the surprises for when he is on. The second half of the show, we've got Libby Ferguson. She is the Assistant Executive Director of the McDaniel Tichenor House. She's not only going to tell us about that historic building, but the history behind it. So great show in store. First off, congratulations to our district attorney, Randy McGinley, yesterday sworn in as one of our next state Superior Court judges.
Amazing.
What an accomplishment.
Yes, absolutely. And very well deserved.
Yeah, well deserved. I agree. He's a wonderful man, so very proud of him. And Chastity, tomorrow I'm taking off on a road trip.
Nice.
Short, just 4 days. We're going to go up, my wife and I are going to go up to Virginia. My son's future in-laws are having an engagement party, so we're going to zip up there and then work our way back. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to stop on the way back. I know it's Monticello is an option.
Ooh.
Right?
That
So you've got some
sounds
history
nice.
there. Bristol has, there's
Oh,
a
of
museum
course.
there in Bristol that's like the old school country music museum.
Oh, that would be fun.
I thought that would be fascinating to go
be.
stop there. So I'm trying to figure out where do I stop on my way back from Fredericksburg, Virginia, coming back to Monroe. We got 1 day to spend, so
Hey, I love road trips. So
I do too.
even if you detour, just go with it.
you know, I looked at the math. If we were to fly there, by the time you leave early, you take a 1 hour flight, you get into Washington, D.C., you got to rent a car, drive down. I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
save any time.
No.
So I'm just going to drive.
I think it'll be a wonderful trip.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. I'm looking forward to that. Get this. I don't know if you saw a few days ago, there was a headline that was talking about President Trump had been secretly moved from his Air Force One to another aircraft because there was a possibility of a threat on his life. Well, we know there's a lot of countries, enemies of our country, that would love to take him out. So I can only imagine the
And
threats
so
are
many
always there.
attempts.
Well, this one was bad enough till they actually took action. And what they did is they boarded him. They had him go ahead and board on Air Force One with his crew, his entourage, if you will. And then they secretly moved him out of Air Force One by using the catering truck. So they put him in the catering truck and they moved
Smart.
him over to another airplane and snuck him out that way because the threat, what it was a threat that Iran was going to use a surface-to-air missile and try to take out Air Force One. And so, but here's the frightening part. So that's the James Bond part, right? Just fascinating that they snuck him out of that
Thank
aircraft and
goodness.
into another. Yeah, forward thinking, great stuff. But some of the regular crew, like Marco Rubio, were left on Air Force One. So how would you like to be that guy? It's like, hey, we got some
Wait.
news. Yeah, can I go on the other
Right.
plane? No. We need some people to stay on this plane to make this look real.
Just in case.
So, but kudos to
Well,
Secret
that was,
Service.
yes.
What a-
Thankfully, he's safe.
yeah, thankfully he's safe and nothing
I did
happen.
see that, though.
Do you remember back in high school, Chastity, did you have teachers that were either extra fun and exciting or either extra boring? I had a great teacher my senior in high school. She's still a dear friend of mine today. Her name is Angel Kaler in high school. Her married name now is Angel Edwards. Fantastic teacher my high school year. She knew how to put up with me and my classroom jokes. Great
Aw.
personality. But then you also had teachers that were kind of stiff.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We always had those teachers. Typically the math department, right? They're numbers teachers, and I get it. They don't want to put up with the nonsense. They didn't like class clowns like me one
Hey,
bit.
we still had paddling, so we really had some.
Did you ever
tough-
get a spanking?
Well, we'll save that for another show.
Well, and so get this
Not,
next story.
not really, but we'll save it for another show.
You were a bad girl in school,
No, I
weren't
was
you?
not. No,
Troublemaker.
I was not a rule breaker.
Well, so speaking of these different personalities, up in New York, they had paused a plan to put a humanoid robot in a school as a teacher. And so this is they call this robot Sally, 5'2" humanoid with highly realistic appearances, and it's AI trained. And so it never crossed my mind that this is possibly the future of AI robotics. We think about it in the capacity of maybe cleaning our homes Or maybe, obviously they've used robotics in manufacturing for decades now. That's been going on for a long time. But you've heard about autonomous cars. That's now becoming commonplace. They have the Waymo taxi.
Yes.
Am I saying that right? Waymo?
Waymo.
They're running commercials for that now to, gain people's comfortable level, of getting into a taxi without a driver.
Have you been in one?
No.
Me neither.
They say it's 10 times more safe than a human driver.
I'm not sure about that. I seen two get into a traffic jam in Atlanta.
Have you?
Yeah, one was trying to turn right, and then the other was trying to turn left, and then for some reason, the one turning right was trying to get too close to the other Waymo, so they just kind of stopped and were just not sure what to do.
Well, and so but you're hearing this where it's entering mainstream life, where there's robotics and there's AI, and
Sure.
it's taking over certain industries. It's vastly affected the tech industry as far as people who are into coding and programming. But now it made me think, what is the next forefront, and where do they apply these robots? I'm fine with having that little robot scoot around the house and vacuum stuff up.
Sure.
I'm cool with that. But do you want a robot teaching your kids or your grandchildren? Would you
Yeah.
be cool with that?
No, I don't think so. Because we already know, there's just certain platforms that go certain directions. So I would rather just stick to being in the classroom, teaching from, the history books, the math books.
Just old school.
Absolutely.
Well, the bigger debate is whether AI and robots belong in the classroom at all. And I agree with you. I don't think it does, because that would be, it's not just the educational side. I'm not saying there isn't value, because the volume of data that robot would have to share with kids is enormous. I get that. It's basically, you've got everything in the history of all textbooks would be at its disposal. The problem is once again this human disinteraction that we're starting to continue,
normalize.
well, not starting. We're normalize and continuing to advance. So good for them for pulling the plug, but I don't think that's the end of this. I think you are going to see.
Yeah, because they don't have compassion. I mean, can they sense?
Well, it goes back to my teacher from high school, putting up with me when I'm a class clown. What happens if you're a class clown with the AI robot?
It's going to laser you.
Did you ever see RoboCop?
No, but...
What? You haven't seen RoboCop?
I'm terrible.
You haven't seen RoboCop?
No, I haven't. I've seen, kind of, just trailers, I guess you could say.
It's a great example of a
yes,
robot
but
gone
yeah.
bad.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So never mind a ruler.
Yeah.
Hey, bring back the rulers.
It could be way worse.
Make
than a
rulers
ruler.
great again.
You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. Chastity, we picked on Mamdani quite a bit, the new mayor up in New York. I say new, he's been there for 8-9 months now.
Jeez.
And just 8 or 9 months into his socialist agenda, rent has now hit a record high under his leadership, and this is a direct result of the policies that he has implemented, which is again taking away the free market and applying overt government control on everything. It just doesn't work.
It's insane.
And so for the people who live there, the benefit now for electing him is that rent is 5% higher than just 1 year ago. That's past the rate of inflation.
Wow. And it's already insane rent out there in New York.
It's already insane.
Yes.
Did you know that the average rent is $4,200 a month? And I had a buddy up there. I've been in an average apartment in New York, and I'm telling you, Chastity, it is no bigger than the studio we're sitting in right now.
Yeah, the kitchen's not even it's like the size of a bathroom, really. Just a very small bathroom. But
You could take a nap, go to the bathroom, and cook an egg all at the same time. Because it's that
within
small.
2 steps.
Yeah, 2 steps. And when I say size of the studio, I don't mean the whole building we're in. I'm talking this little bitty studio that we're in. So those apartments are sometimes 300, 400 square feet. They're a glorified hotel room, and they're $4,000 a month.
Could you imagine that?
But I guess what the issue that I've got with this whole affordability deal in saying, hey, let's force the government to make things more affordable for me. At what point don't you just say, I'm going to move?
Well, I think that's happening a lot.
Well, the problem is their inventory is also at an all-time low. And I don't know if I have the data here on the inventory, but I want to say the inventory was like 1.2% vacancy rate. So people that have the apartments that are under what are called rent control, they're not giving them up.
Sure.
So if you are living in New York, or if you're trying to move to the city, you are you are out of luck.
Yeah. Well, they'll just continue to create havoc and try to get everyone out,
Well,
essentially.
the ultimate
Maybe.
deal is Mamdani, his policies are going to be a disaster. This is
Yes.
just the tip of the iceberg. There's other examples that we can discuss, but this is the tip of the
Agree.
iceberg of what happens when you step in as the government and you try to take over private enterprise and you try to control everything. It just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. When we come back, Bart Benton is going to take us on a little journey and advise us on how to handle some legal issues. Stick around. And welcome back. Folks, Benton Benton is a law firm in Monroe that if you have a serious injury or wrongful death case, this is the folks you want to go to. Bart Benton is a friend of the station, and he is joining us now. Bart, how are you doing, sir? Good to talk to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your insight with us because as I'm going through the notes that we prepared for our conversation, what we're going to try to do is share with the listeners a couple of different scenarios that if they or somebody in their family is facing, they have a better understanding of the approach that they can take. Obviously, we can't solve all the legal issues here in a 15-minute segment, but we can at least point them in the right direction as to what their next step might be. Let's start off. If you are in a situation, let's say you think you are the victim of medical malpractice. Let's kind of go into that because we're going to talk about medical malpractice. We're going to talk about getting injured on the job. And then we'll talk about, property owner's responsibility if there's an injury that takes place on their premises. But let's talk about the medical malpractice. If you, let's say you go to a doctor and you feel that the doctor has made a mistake, maybe it's something that took place from a treatment that they gave you. Do you automatically have a malpractice case, or what justifies the next step to qualify that? Yeah, and think about the complexity of that, because I've heard these cases before, and I don't know if these are true, but I've heard that the old-fashioned case of somebody goes in for surgery and then they go get an x-ray and they found out a pair of scissors were left inside their body, right? That's an obvious medical malpractice. That's a slam dunk. But let's talk about the scenario where, let's say you go get a knee replacement and then your knee just doesn't feel good. It's not healing. That's got to be way more complex to try and prove that it was medical malpractice. Yeah, and one of the more common things that I've heard of, and actually I've had acquaintances who have succumbed to injuries from surgery because of infection. I would imagine that's probably the one of the most likely causes of a continued issue is the chance of infection. And even in those scenarios, how do you know the infection took place on the operating table, right? That maybe it took place a week later when you were cleaning your wound. So what should somebody do? What would be the first step? And obviously we have a myriad of examples, but let's just use a simple one. Somebody goes in for surgery, hip replacement, and 2 months later, something's not right. At what point should they seek legal help? You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. Our guest is Bart Benton of Benton and Benton Law, their law firm here in Monroe. Bart, to close out this first segment here, is there anything else that our listeners should remember? Because again, I'm making so many references to surgery. There may be other scenarios where medical malpractice is in place that didn't involve surgery. Could you maybe give us an idea of what something like that would be, or maybe any stories that you've heard where there was something that a person has experienced and they may need to consider or pursuing something? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's devastating. That's got to be such a challenge for young parents that are going through that. Also, too, I've heard stories of people that have gone in for cosmetic issues, maybe trying to get work done on their face or maybe weight loss, and then those have gone sideways. And so I would imagine, too, that's another area of big medical malpractice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I bet. All right, so let's move on. Did anything else you want to discuss on that subject before we move on to our next subject? Workers' compensation. So, if you're injured at work, do you have to prove that your employer caused the injury? What's the step there? So let's say you slip, you fall, or you hurt your back picking up a box. What are the options? Interesting. Okay. So if you're working and you slip or fall or you pick up a box and hurt your back, that's pretty much then a slam dunk automatic workers' comp case. Interesting. Okay. So that's not even on the table if you were to hire an attorney. Yeah. You were working when it happened. Yeah. What about, like, let's say somebody was playing hockey and they fell and they hurt their shoulder and then they faked it the next day and they said they hurt it while covering a radio show. Then how does, how do you weed through or sift through the folks that are lying? So if somebody comes into you with a case and says, hey, Bart, I was working and I hurt myself, but you sniff something out and thinking, maybe this guy hurt himself playing a sport, because that has to go on. I know I know you personally, you're a credible attorney. You don't want to take on a case that you don't think is legitimate. But how do you sift through that to be sure that somebody's not abusing the program or abusing the system?
He's just asking for a friend, though.
I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person. No, hey, Bob plays hockey too. So Bob,
Oh, yeah.
Bob can fall in that category.
Oh, wow.
Hey, but by the way, Chastity, new rule, nobody picks up a thing in this radio station ever again.
Not even a folder.
Not even a folder.
That's right.
Anything over 6 ounces, I'm in charge of. No, but that's and I'm looking at this through both lenses, Bart. I'm looking at it through the lens of somebody who does own a business and employs people, and being sure that, hey, you are not being taken advantage of for something that you had no responsibility for. But the flip side also is, yes, if you are an employee and something has happened and your employer is responsible for it, is being sure that your rights are protected and that you are compensated for whatever injury took place. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there. All right, you're listening to the Marc McMain Show. Guest is Bart Benton of Benton Law. They're an injury firm in Monroe. They're a great organization, and I can't emphasize enough that if you have an issue that you are contemplating, you need advice, these are the folks you want to go to, because you're going to get real advice, and they're not going to deal with somebody who is not legitimate. They do it the right way, and that's what I appreciate with Bart. Chastity, you got something you want to chime in?
I do have one question. We have a small business here in Walton County,
Yep.
and not that this has ever happened, but I told my husband if we ever had to come across a scrupulous, workman's comp
Like somebody
case,
trying to beat the system?
sure.
Yeah.
Would it be smart on the business owner's end to instantly, like if someone says, hey, I'm hurt on the job, to send them to like a little drug testing facility. Or,
It's a good call, Chassie.
does that look bad, like on the business owner's part, if they were to ask like something like that? Like I said, not that this happened. We've got great employees. We love them all. But just, I always tell my husband, workman's comp, that,
Yeah, you want to be sure that somebody wasn't inebriated at the time of their injury. Now you're having to pay for their mishap because they were drunk or they were stoned or whatever it may be. Yeah, no.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then would that affect the case as well? Of course.
That makes sense, and that's how it should be. Yep,
Agree.
no, I agree.
Yes, I agree.
All right, so our last subject, and this is going to go into, now you are a patron of a business, you go in and something happens. There's an old saying in the sliding door or automatic door industry that if you get injured by an automatic door in the United States, you are rich. If you get injured by an automatic door in Europe, you're an idiot. They don't have the protective causes. And what that means is that it's become so litigious here in the United States that, anytime something happens and you go on a premise, there's a case. And so, and again, as a business owner, that frightens me, right? You don't want people walking in and getting hurt, and then all of a sudden you're responsible for their stupidity. If it's something you're negligent about, yes, absolutely. But if it's their stupidity, you don't want to pay for that. So let's use this example. If you go into a grocery store and you fall, does the store automatically owe you money? Yeah, so there's a couple benchmarks here that you have to meet if it is really, if you're going to try to lay the blame on the owner of the premise. And so yeah, let's go back to that example. If you have somebody that walks in, so I'm in Walmart and I'm drinking a bottle of water and I dump my bottle of water accidentally, and then 3 minutes later somebody comes behind me and slips in that, we're in a gray area because Walmart had no clue I did that. They didn't have time to find out. I guess they could. All right, what about this scenario? And I'm going to throw a curveball at you. What about if you're in Walmart and a fight breaks out? Nothing to do with Walmart's fault, and somebody gets punched and hurt. Is Walmart liable for that? Okay. Interesting. Right. Interesting. Okay.
But they could be responsible if someone was like robbed or mugged in the parking lot. Is that? Wow.
That's interesting. That was a good question, Jesse. Yeah. And here's what I take from this. If you are a business owner, get your security cameras up. Be vigilant on what's taking place in your property, both inside and out. Be sure that things are addressed immediately. If there is a spill, if there's a safety concern outside, be on the ball and be part of the solution, not the problem. And if you are a patron, be realistic. If something happens and you feel it is truly something, the responsibility of the owner of that premise, call Bart. If it's something where you're just a dummy and you fell down because you're clumsy or you're Morgan. That's right. Bart, I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds. Tell the listeners how they can find out more about you and anything else that you want to close this segment out with. Bart, I appreciate you spending time with us today. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Be smart. Call Bart. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have Libby Ferguson. She is the Assistant Executive Director of the McDaniel Tichenor House right here in Monroe, Georgia. And welcome back. Welcome back, Marc McMain. Right now, I missed this because I was introducing just Libby Ferguson. We actually have both Libby Ferguson, who is the Assistant Executive Director, and Lindsay Stallings, who is the Executive Director of the McDaniel Tichenor House. Ladies, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to have fun. You may be nervous now, but in like 10 minutes, you're going to be wide open. It's going to be like just a good old-fashioned down-home interview. And here's what I want to do to kind of break the ice. Libby, we'll start with you. Just tell me a little bit in 2 or 3 minutes of how you got into this role. What is your background, education? Did you do something to prepare yourself for this? So let's learn more about you.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the Atlanta area, attended the University of Georgia where I met my husband, went on to law school, and then to later become a stay-at-home mom. And I was at home for 18 years, and my daughter, we shipped her off to the University of Georgia last August. Meanwhile, Andrea Gray, who was the chair of the board of directors at the McDaniel Tichenor House, we were friends, and she asked if I would join the board. And so I did, and that very first year, I chaired the governor's gala, and it was quite successful, and we had a great time doing it. And that's how I got to know Lindsay, because we worked together for many, many, many hours. And so we packed up my daughter, sent her off to Athens, and then I got a phone call from Lindsay asking if I would like to come on staff to do special events.
You did such a good job. They're like, we're pulling you in.
100%. Yeah. And the timing was perfect. My life was changing, and I'm still a mom to my son, who's 16, but it was going to be very different. So my husband I asked him about it, and we discussed it as a family, and they're like, what do you have to lose? Like, you'll be really good at that.
And the timing was perfect, too.
The timing was
kids
perfect.
are getting older. Yeah, maybe you got some more spare time to invest.
And so I jumped on board, and my background really is just that I love people, and I'm good at networking, and I love to get people together. And I did, enjoy learning from Lindsay on the fundraising side that time when I was on the board. And so I've been in this role since August, and it's been a lot of work, but very rewarding.
Well, I know they have to be thrilled to have you there. And Lindsay, we'll shift to you for a second. Same thing. Tell us your background and how did you become the executive director of the McDaniel Tichenor House?
Yeah, so I also born and raised in the Athens area, went to UGA, graduated with a risk management and insurance degree, and that's what I did for the first 12 years after college. Absolutely loved it, but our company dissolved and sold to another company, and I got the opportunity to start a business in Athens. So I opened up a clothing boutique.
Really?
Yeah, and I did that for 3 years. And at the time, my partner, Matt McKinney, really wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. So I did that for a little bit. But in the meantime of doing all that, I was raised from Dawn Griffin, who is big background in volunteerism. She is a member of every board, it feels like, in the Athens and Monroe area. And so I really got to see her hard work and dedication and the things that she did. So I myself, from a very young age, started volunteering at different organizations in the Athens area, and I started working on fundraising. And so behind the scenes, I had a main time job, but in my spare time, I was a volunteer for these organizations, and the main things I did for them was fundraising and planning events. And really, it feels like out of the blue one day, I got a call from someone who said, hey, we're interested in hiring an executive director of the McDaniel Tichenor House, and your name has been brought up a few times. Would you like to come and meet with us? And let's just see if this is a good fit for you. And so, yeah, I got called, and I accepted the position at the McDaniel Tichenor House, have absolutely fallen in love with it, did not have any background in any type of preservation and history, but I did have a very strong, solid background in fundraising. And that is the main thing that we needed at the McDaniel Tichenor House at that time, was fundraising. So, well,
I don't think people realize what's involved in keeping that place as beautiful as it is, because it is a historic home. But like both y'all just said, you have to want more than just being involved in the business side of this. You have to love history if you're going to be involved in that house.
Yes.
And that's what I can't wait to dig into is the history and the story. Libby, you had come and spoke to the Rotary Club one morning a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And gave us a little, just a brief history lesson, but it was fascinating to understand the families that founded the house, the families that lived in the house. And that's what I want to kind of revisit today. We had your mom on the show several months ago. She did great, so please tell her that we said hi.
I definitely will.
What was y'all's first impression? And Libby, we'll go back to you on this. When you saw the house, and it may have been like for myself, I was there for an event, right? I was there, maybe, I can't remember if it was a wedding or a fundraiser or a Rotary Club event. Was the first time that I ever saw the house. But what was your first impression when you saw the McDaniel Tichenor house?
Well, we have lived in Monroe for probably 13 years now, and right up the street from the McDaniel Tichenor house. So I have driven by that house for that long and never thought to stop and check it out. And
Right.
so when I was asked to serve on the board of directors, that was my first opportunity to go and explore and learn so much. And in this capacity now as a director of special events, we have so many people that come in for tours who were in the same boat. They've lived here and always passed the house, but never understood the significance. But I have such a better appreciation for the McDaniel Tichenor house and the families behind it, and it helps me to really appreciate the history of Monroe and
Right.
different institutions that Governor Henry McDaniel was part of.
And was the house always at its current location?
Yes.
So it's never been moved?
No.
Because a lot of historic homes have been moved
Right.
from their original location. And Lindsay, what about yourself? What your first time there? What was your first experience with the house?
Oh, I was absolutely in awe. I thought it was amazing. It is so grand. It's so majestic. The property is stunning. And my favorite thing about the house, the very first time walking into it, is everything in there is original from one of the generations that lived in the house. So there's no replications. Nothing was brought in. Everything you see in the house belonged to that family, one of the generations that did live in that family. So now I have an absolute huge love for older furniture and all these things that I get to see in the house every day. And it is, every piece has a story, right? Every single thing in that house tells something. And it has just been really wonderful to give the tours and to open it up to the community and to even the school children that come, the educational events that we have, to not only tell about the history of Governor McDaniel himself, but the history of the house and the pieces and the artifacts that are in the house.
What year was the house built?
1887.
And I think a lot of times that we think about historic homes, we automatically think of Madison.
Right.
Which in its right has a nice collection of historic homes, and I've done the tour out there and I enjoy that. But we've got our own little slice of history right here in Monroe, and it's right there in the McDaniel Tichenor house. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, ladies, what we're going to do is we're going to dig into the history. All right, we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
And welcome back, Marc McMain. Joining me is Lindsay Stallings, Libby Ferguson. They are the dynamic duo that's in charge of the McDaniel Tichenor house. That is a historic estate right on the edge of downtown Monroe. And we'll kind of open back up with you, Lindsay. Tell us about the history. Let's start with the first resident of the house. Who was that? And tell us the story.
Okay, great. So the house was built in 1887 for, at the time, Governor Henry McDaniel. Now, Governor Henry McDaniel was the 52nd governor for the state of Georgia. He filled out Alexander Stephens' term. Alexander Stephens actually passed away in office. So he fulfilled that term, but then he was reelected to a full term in 1884. So he did serve as governor. And but prior to him being governor and prior to the house, Governor McDaniel is an absolutely remarkable man. He went to Mercer. He was a professor. He was a lawyer. He went off and fought in the Civil War. That's actually how he met his wife.
Was he a Monroe native, or was he born elsewhere?
He was born elsewhere, but he's considered a Monroe native for how long they lived here.
Yep.
They did live in Atlanta for a while. His father, Ira McDaniel, actually, if you've heard of McDaniel Street in Atlanta, that is named for Ira McDaniel, which is Governor McDaniel's father. So he did kind of grow up going to schools in Atlanta, but then did come to Monroe. And so anyways, he went off to war, and Hester presented on the a flag to him and the 14th Regiment volunteers that were leaving. And I guess they kind of batted eyes at each other and, started a little something, and they decided to correspond all throughout the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
So they corresponded all throughout the Civil War. Henry was injured. He became a POW, and he came back home. That's when he fulfilled his office. He married Hester. I believe it was 1865.
That's right.
Don't forget. Okay, thanks, Libby. I don't have all my numbers in front of me.
But Libby's fact checking over there. So that's good.
So anyways, he married Hester, became governor, and at that time is really where the story gets interesting and remarkable. So while he was governor, he is the one that instituted and founded Georgia Tech. So the Institute of Technology in Atlanta is now called Georgia Tech. He is the one that instituted that. He also, the Capitol building, when it was under construction, he is the governor that was responsible for that. It's a huge deal to say he came in under budget. He did.
Good for him. I like this guy already.
It's absolutely amazing. He did a lot for the cotton mills here in Monroe. Like I said, a lawyer and a professor. And
would he have had a say in how the house was designed too?
100%.
So he was a hands-on guy?
Yes, very much so. I think you realize that about him and everything he did. He had his hand in so many different little pots, you know? Oh, and I want to say this too. It doesn't get talked about as much anymore, but I love to talk about it on my tours. If people can remember, in Milledgeville and Macon, there used to be the Deaf and Blind Institutes. He's the one that started those as well. So I do like to say that.
How forward-thinking, though. Think about this. So he had a hand in Georgia Tech. All the things that you're talking about. So you could tell this guy was probably sleeping 4 hours a night and just brainstorming the rest of the time.
Yes. Oh, and to be a professor at Mercer, founded Georgia Tech. He also actually sat on the board of trustees at the University of Georgia as well for over 25 years.
This guy's making me feel like a loser, Chastity.
I mean, he actually had his hand in creating Ag Hill. So a lot of the agricultural college at Georgia should be thankful also to Governor McDaniel and everything that he did for them.
Wow.
And let me ask you this. Did he end up dying in the house? Did he move away? Or what
yes,
was...
he did die. Yeah. And so the next generation, I think he passed away, is it 1926? Yes, he passed away in 1926, and during that time, his daughter Gypsy lived across the street, actually. So if you are familiar with Monroe, directly kind of diagonal across the street, there's a beautiful white house with a picket fence. Mm-hmm. That was actually his daughter's house. That was a wedding present that Governor McDaniel...
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I've been in that house too many a time. Yeah.
Had built for Gypsy, and so after Governor McDaniel passed away, Gypsy started some remodeling in the house, and in 1930, the complete remodel of the house happened. So in 1887, I would like to say the architectural style at the time was called Italiante Villa style. Okay. So what you see today, if you were to come visit the house, it's a neoclassical style. So in 1930, Gypsy did make that renovation.
And what would that have meant? Would she have stripped down the paint to the floors? Did she remove the floors, or was just basically cosmetics and decoration?
So we removed the center tower. We added 2 flanking porches, and all the big columns were added.
So that's a major renovation.
Major
Yeah,
renovation.
okay.
That's
So-
also when they had added running water and electricity.
Oh, and ran the
Yes.
electricity and all that. Yeah, make it
Yes.
modern. Because I was going to ask you that when I was there a couple of weeks ago, Libby, I saw the fixtures and the light switches, and I'm like, when did that come about? Because the Vanderbilt house, I believe, was it 1905? Or maybe that's when electricity came in, and they had it ever since then. So you guys had to go and, well, not y'all, but they had to go and retrofit that.
Yes, so
Yeah.
in 1930, when she did her renovation, that's when she modernized it as well.
And actually, would love to give y'all a tour out there. But if you do come give us a chance and come check out the house, you can see some of these updates that happened. If you look in the chandelier that's hanging above the dining room right now, you can see that the wire was added.
I
after the
studied
fact.
that closely. I was right
Yes.
there. I was paying close attention to that. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. We're visiting with Libby Ferguson, Lindsay Stallings. They are in charge of the McDaniel Tichenor house. We're learning about the history of the house. So I'm going to hand it back off to you guys. What takes place then after it? And any story on the name Gypsy? That's not a common name. What was
Her name is actually Emma.
So Gypsy was a nickname.
Gypsy was a nickname, but what's really funny when you start hearing the names in the family, they very much repeat themselves. We have multiple Henrys, we have multiple Hesters, and we actually have multiple Gypsies.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
Even though Gypsy's real name was Emma, I guess you would call it's not 4th generation, but Gypsy Glefke is also a family member. That would have been Hester's daughter.
Okay.
She also has the name Gypsy, but that was actually her legal name. It wasn't the Emma Brent.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
we have a bunch of mixtures of names. But so that 1930, that is when Gypsy lived in the house. And then after they passed away, Henry, who was Gypsy and Edgar's son. So
Okay.
there was Henry and Hester. Those were the children of Gypsy and Edgar.
Okay.
Henry bought his sister's share of the house. He took ownership of the house. He met and married the most beautiful Emily Burney, who is now Emily Tichenor. And out of all the generations that did live in the house, Emily lived in the house the longest. Emily and Henry did not have children. So she, upon her death in 1990, she had already had communication with the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation starting in the 80s. And she put the house on the National Register.
So
for
she had the
Historic
foresight
Places.
to start procuring and setting
Yes.
up what we know and appreciate today.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. We have everything to, and thanks to her, actually, she left the house to the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation. She left an endowment to help cover some of the cost of the house. She left a very detailed will of what she wanted the house to continue to be in the community, which was a house for the community to get to enjoy.
Oh, she would have to be thrilled as to what's taking place.
I think
Yeah,
so. And
yeah.
I will say the house has really come alive in these last few years, even more so with Libby here. We are having more events all the time. And it's just been really nice. It feels alive in there. There's times when I first started, the vision of the house was really to make it more of a living museum and do, some events,
Right.
because we have to be able to keep the doors
You
open.
need revenue.
We
Yeah.
need the revenue
That's right.
from
Yeah.
the fundraising and the events.
But you guys have a lot of events there now, because like I mentioned, the Rotary Club, but I've been to weddings there. I've been to I've been to the Christmas event that they do for the Rotary Club. And so that's just what comes to mind for me. But I guess people can hold it for, is it corporate events if they're having a
Yes.
meeting?
Yes.
And I know some things or some areas are maybe off limits because, like you said, the house is filled with original art and original furniture. So you can't just have any old moron coming through there and tearing the place up. You got to be
true.
selective as to who comes in.
That's very true.
And I just want to remind you, Chastity, there's going to be a quiz on this in about 2 minutes. So
Hey, I'm ready. I
taking
love
notes over there?
history.
All
And I love how excited Libby is when she tells the stories. You can
Yes.
hear it and just the excitement and just telling the story of the history. I just love Monroe.
Well, and I saw that when we came to the event a couple weeks ago and Libby was giving us a little intro, you have to love what you're doing to be a part of that, because if you don't, I think it's going to show. You gotta want to be there and be a part of this. So if somebody is planning on a wedding or an event, what is their first step?
Libby.
To call Libby.
That's right.
You can go online to our website and schedule a call or a tour to come by and meet face to face. But I'm now the contact for all special events. And so reach me, let me know what kind of event you're interested in. We can talk about rates, and I'll give a tour and show you the different options for your type of event. and that's where we would start.
Now, when I went to the wedding, it was an outdoor event. And like you said, Lindsay, just absolute gorgeous grounds that sit behind the place. So you have flexibility because you can do stuff inside. I've been to the Christmas party, which was inside. Do they ever do anything? Are the upstairs offices? Is that what you have up there?
No, the upstairs is a continuation of the house for our tours.
For the music,
we only
like the
open
tours,
it
yeah.
up for when we have weddings for the bridal party to get ready together.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's closed off just because of the wear and tear. We open it up for our tours, and then if you have a wedding, otherwise it's closed off. And you just have, when you have an event at our house, you have access to the main floor of the house and all of the grounds.
I know if you come in the front of the house, I've always come in the back of the house, but if you come in the front on the right, you have a parlor that has a piano. Tell us about that.
That's right. Well, yes, that was Gypsy's piano, so it's quite old and not anyone.
Steinway.
Yes,
not just
it's
a piano.
evidently one of 2 Steinways in Walton County currently.
Wow. Yeah.
So we have to take very good care of it, and we do allow people to play on it, but not just anybody.
They have to fill out an application first.
Right, exactly. But we're very proud of it. But we do typically have it like blocked off and ask for people to not touch and lay things on it.
Well, I was joking about the chandelier, but seriously, when I was looking at it, I was thinking, if you miss a crystal, how do you replace that? I mean, where do you source something like that?
We're in the process of that now. That's one thing I think that probably most people wouldn't realize about the house. We can't just go to anyone to make repairs.
You can't go to Amazon and say, hey, I need to order a
Exactly.
crystal for this,
No,
Yeah.
we have to go to the right people that can prove and show us the background that they have in fixing those things. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a special house. And so, it is finding those specialized people that can work in a house like that.
And I know you shared that maybe sometimes during prom season, young people come up on the front porch and they'll just I guess people are welcome to do that, or is that
Yes.
something y'all?
We love visitors, yes. Recently, we have asked for them to give us a heads up, just simply because if you are renting the venue for your special event, we don't need a gaggle of teenagers on the front porch. But if there's not an event happening, then we welcome people to come into the front yard and take photos.
It is a great backdrop for prom pictures and whatnot.
Yes.
All right, so let's recap. If somebody wants to host a wedding, an event, a corporate outing, whatever it may be, they can go to the website. They can maybe get in contact with you, find out scheduling, pricing, and that type of stuff. If somebody wants a tour, if somebody just wants to they don't want to rent the place, but they just want to come see the place, how do they do that? Is that back through you again, Libby?
Well, yes, myself or Lindsay, you can go online again and schedule a tour or pick up the phone and call us. We do tours on Tuesdays and Thursdays
Okay.
during office hours, but we will make exceptions if that doesn't fit your schedule. We just ask for people to call ahead and reserve a time. Again, just to make sure that no one's using the house for like a meeting or
Which
a
makes
gathering.
sense, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm going to give each y'all 30 seconds to close. Just one final thing. We'll start with you, Libby. Anything that you want our listeners to be aware of, whether and contact information is point them to a website if there's a phone number you want to give out.
Yes, so our website is www.McDaniel-Tichenor.org, and we have a lot of special events coming up. We do rely solely on donations and fundraising for the operation of this house, and we have a gala coming up on September the 24th, and it is going to be our largest fundraiser. We do it biannually just to give our local businesses a break, but this year it's the Gilded Age theme, and we have a jazz musician from New York City, Michael Aranella, is coming to perform, along with valet, a concierge check-in, dining, silent auction, live auction, and a few Gilded Age special experiences. Our chair people for the gala are Charles Preston and Stephanie Cannon, and they've been working diligently, and it's going to be a really special night, and we would love for you to go online and purchase a ticket and join us.
Come on out. That's right. Lindsay?
So I think I'm excited. I have a passion project I've been working on for a little over a year now. In 1977, those love letters I spoke to you about that Henry and Hester corresponded with, a book was written called With Unabated Trust, and it was these love letters. And like I said, it was printed in 1977. You can't find them anywhere around. So my passion project is getting that book reprinted, and I just
That's
found
gonna be
out.
great.
I am so excited. I just found out that it is going forward.
Congratulations.
So,
All right, that's exciting.
Everyone stay tuned. You will have a copy of With Unabated Trust very soon to be able to purchase.
I love it. Ladies, you guys did a great job. This is a lot very informative, very educational, and I appreciate y'all coming and joining us today.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much.
All right. Chastity, good job as always. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. I'm on the road tomorrow, but somebody's here, Doug and Judy. They're gonna
That's
be
right.
they're gonna be knocking out of the park
Yeah.
at noon, folks.
No telling where we're going.
That's right. Until then, stay safe, everybody.
All right.